Okay, hi guys, we're back after just doing factoring, greatest common factor. Now we're going to talk about factoring a trinomial and how in my trinomial a, b, and c are related. And just real quick, so we remind of where a, b, and c are, I have ax squared plus bx plus c. Now most of the trinomials we're going to factor, a is going to equal 1. So when a equals 1, it's pretty easy, but I still going to show you no matter what, so you know what a is. I use a little graphic organizer that looks like this, okay? And I need two numbers that multiply to be a times c and add to be b. So that's how I kind of set it up. I need two numbers that multiply to be a times c. And when a is 1, it's just multiply to be whatever c is. And add to be whatever. So I need two numbers basically that multiply to be this number and add to be this number. That's when a equals c. A equals 1. So sorry. When a is something else, we have to do a few other things to it. And we can talk about that if it comes up. So we're going to go ahead and go on and try this. The other thing I forgot to mention, it does need to be in this form, in standard form. So in this order. So the x squared needs to be first, the x needs to be second, and the c needs to be last. So the other thing I wanted to say is if one of these are missing, like if I don't have an x, that term would be 0, so it would add to be 0. Or if I don't have a c, then it would multiply to be 0. Just a kind of couple of things to keep in mind when we start doing this. So here we go. The first one, I'm going to zoom this in so it's a little easier to see. Notice it's not in order, so I need to just rewrite it. So the x squared is first. So this should be x squared plus 7x plus 12. Now that it's in the right order, I want two numbers that multiply to be 12 and add to be 7. So I'm just going to think of my multiples. When I'm doing this, I want to think of my multiples of 12. I don't know if some of you understand this, but I am going to go through this kind of step by step, so we can make sure everyone understands. So what multiplies to be 12? Well, what multiplies to be 12 are 1 and 12, 2 and 6, and 3 and 4. Well, which one of those add to be 7? Well, of course, it's 3 and 4. So this is not my answer. I cannot leave it like this. This is not it. My answer is x plus 3 times x plus 4. And this is how it needs to be written. Can I check my answer? Sure I can. I can distribute this out, or FOIL, whichever word you're used to using from hearing from your teacher. Go ahead and multiply this out, and I should get my original equation. So we're just going to check real quick so you can see that. X times x is x squared, and x times 4 is 4x, and 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times 4 is 12. Sorry, that should be a plus sign. And then I get x squared plus 7x plus 12. So my answer is x plus 3 times x plus 4. Right here. Okay, so that's what I get when I factor. So the nice thing about factoring is you can check your answers to see if you've got the right answer, which makes it really nice. That's one thing I really like about factoring. I can always check my answer if I take my time to do so. So here's our next one. So here's my graphic organizer. I need two numbers that multiply to be 27 and add to be negative 12. So I have to make sure I put my negatives in there. Since this is a negative number, I want two numbers that multiply to be negative 12. So tell me what multiplies to be 27. Well, it's 3 and 9. Well, 3 plus 9 does add to be 12, but not negative 12. So if I do negative 3 and negative 9, negative 3 times negative 9 is positive 27, and negative 3 plus negative 9 is negative 12. So those fit my constraints, or my those fit what the constraints I have on my problem. So here we go. I'm going to write it as x minus 3 times x minus 9. And there's my answer. And again, I can check it if I need to see if I've got it right. But I know that these two numbers fit my constraints, so I'm pretty confident that that is the correct answer. Here we go. Got two more problems here to go. So we're going to draw our graphic organizer. And I need two numbers that multiply to be negative 10 and add to be negative 3. Well, what numbers multiply to be negative 10? That would be 2 and 5. Yes, 2 and 5. Well, 2 times 5 is not negative 10, so one of them has to be negative. So I need to look up to what it needs to be. It needs to be added to be negative 3. So because I know that this is negative, I know that my larger number will be negative. So it's 2 and negative 5. So I've got x plus 2 times x minus 5. And we're just going to check this so you guys can see that it's correct. So x times x is x squared, and x times negative 5 is negative 5x, and 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. So I've got x squared minus 3x minus 10, and there's my original equation. So my answer for this is x plus 2 times x minus 5. So I just want to come back to here really quick. If this number right here was positive, then my bigger number would be positive. But this number is negative, therefore my bigger number will be negative. So when I have when it needs to be multiplied to a negative number, I know one of my answers will be positive and one will be negative. Then I have to decide which one's positive and negative. And that's how I decide, is if my upper number is negative, then my bigger number will be negative. If the upper number is positive, then my bigger number will be positive. That's just my thought when I'm doing this and how I think about it. I hope that helps you guys just a little bit. So we're going to move on to the next problem, and the last problem on this little video clip. So here's my graphic organizer. I need two numbers that multiply to be negative 2 and add to be, okay, since there's no number with the x, I know that it's just 1x. So I need two numbers that multiply to be negative 2 and add to be 1. Well, there's only two numbers that multiply to be 2, and that is 2 and 1. Okay, so because this number is negative, I know that one of my numbers have to be negative. And since this number is positive, this number is negative, this number is positive, I know that my bigger number has to be positive. So this will be negative. So I've got x plus 2 times x minus 1. And there we go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause there, and then I'll give you a couple problems to work on. Then we will come back and we will see you on the next section. Talk to you soon.